It begins with a chill in the air. Days grow shorter, nights stretch longer, and something ancient stirs beneath the fading amber leaves. Halloween, our annual flirtation with the eerie and unknown, feels timeless, as if it has always belonged to the season of harvest and twilight. But beneath the masks, plastic pumpkins, and trick-or-treat rituals lies a tangled web of ancient customs and superstitions, some of which have never truly died. To understand the haunting charm of Halloween, we must step back into the distant past, where bonfires burned bright and shadows whispered stories of wandering spirits. The roots of Halloween trace back over 2,000 years to the Celtic festival of Samhain, celebrated in what is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France. The Celts lived by the rhythm of nature, and for them, Samhain marked the end of the harvest and the beginning of the dark half of the year, a liminal time when the veil between the living and the dead was at its thinnest. It wasn't merely the start of winter, but a doorway where spirits, both benevolent and malevolent, could pass into the mortal world. Bonfires, literal beacons against the encroaching dark, were the centerpiece of Samhain rituals. Villagers would light massive fires atop hills, believing the flames would ward off restless souls and malevolent entities lurking in the shadows. Dressed in crude costumes made of animal skins, people paraded around these fires, hoping to confuse wandering spirits by mimicking them. These disguises were not for fun, they were defenses against things no one dared name aloud. Crops from the harvest were offered to the spirits, along with the occasional sacrifice of livestock. Doors were left ajar, and offerings of bread and fruits were placed on thresholds to appease ancestral spirits who might return for one final visit before vanishing into the night. It was a night to remember the dead, to honor them, but also to fear them. Some spirits, it was said, didn't come back to reminisce. They came back to haunt. When Christianity spread across Europe, it sought to overlay pagan traditions with new religious meaning. By the 9th century, the Church had established All Saints' Day on November 1st, a time to honor saints and martyrs, and All Souls' Day on November 2nd, dedicated to praying for the dead. These holy days borrowed heavily from the familiar customs of Samhain, and by the 11th century, the night before All Saints' Day, All Hallows' Eve, began to resemble the Halloween we know today. But not everyone embraced the new religious interpretations. In rural pockets of Europe, old traditions persisted stubbornly. Superstition hung thick in the air, and people continued to believe that spirits walked the earth on October 31st. As much as the Church tried to reframe the festival as a time of remembrance and prayer, many still felt the pull of older fears, the notion that not all visitors from the other side had good intentions. Even after the Church declared the pagan gods to be demons, stories spread of ghostly apparitions, wicked fairies, and vengeful spirits who would snatch a soul unprepared for the night. In parts of England, villagers took to souling, a precursor to modern trick-or-treating. Children and the poor went door to door, offering prayers for the souls of the dead in exchange for small cakes or tokens of food. The exchange was intended to strengthen the bond between the living and the dead, a tenuous connection that was felt most acutely on Halloween night. The origins of the jack-o'-lantern offer one of Halloween's most enduring eerie symbols. Irish folklore tells the story of Stingy Jack, a miserly drunk who tricked the devil himself twice. When Jack died, heaven refused him, and hell, humiliated by his tricks, barred him from entry. Instead, the devil gave Jack a single glowing ember from the fires of hell to light his way as he wandered the earth for eternity. Jack placed the ember inside a hollowed-out turnip, creating a makeshift lantern that became his only companion in the endless dark. In homage to this cursed soul, Irish families began carving grotesque faces into turnips, potatoes, or beets, hoping to scare off any wandering spirits who might be drawn to their homes. When Irish immigrants brought their customs to America in the 19th century, they discovered that pumpkins, larger and easier to carve, made the perfect replacement. The glowing, hollow eyes of the jack-o'-lantern became a familiar sight on porches and windowsills, warding off spirits and signaling to neighbors that the home had embraced the night's festivities. The playful tradition of trick-or-treating may seem lighthearted today, but it has roots in much darker customs. By the medieval period, many believed that malevolent spirits or fairies could be appeased with offerings of food. Disguising oneself as a spirit, therefore, became not only a form of protection, but a way of collecting treats in exchange for leaving homes untroubled. In early America, however, Halloween was no child's game. During the 18th and 19th centuries, mischief-making ran rampant on October 31st. Halloween night became a time for pranks, sometimes harmless, often destructive. The custom of disguising oneself evolved from pagan ritual into a mask for chaos, with children and adults alike causing mayhem under the cloak of anonymity. It wasn't until the early 20th century that communities, eager to curb the growing trend of vandalism, transformed Halloween into a family-friendly holiday. By the 1920s and 30s, schools and neighborhood organizations began promoting parties, parades, and door-to-door trick-or-treating as wholesome alternatives to mischief. Yet even in this playful rebranding, echoes of older fears persisted. Masked figures knocking at your door demanding a treat lest they unleash a trick. The threat of the supernatural lingered, veiled in playful gestures. Throughout history, Halloween has remained a time to tell stories of the uncanny, the unexplained, and the sinister. Ghost stories, passed from generation to generation, became part of the tradition, fueled by the belief that spirits were closest to the living during these hours. Some believe that if you light a candle and place it in front of a mirror at midnight on Halloween, you might glimpse the face of a ghost or your future self. Others speak of phantom bells that ring through empty forests or mysterious lanterns seen flickering along lonely roads, believed to be Stingy Jack wandering with his cursed flame. Perhaps it's no coincidence that many of the most enduring ghost stories, such as the Headless Horseman in Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, are set during the autumn season. The changing of the seasons, the dying of the year, and the eerie quiet of falling leaves all seem to invite speculation about things unseen. There is a peculiar magic to this liminal time, a recognition that the line between life and death is thinner than we'd like to admit. Modern Halloween might seem, at first glance, far removed from the fearsome festivals of old. Today, we carve pumpkins, drape our porches with fake cobwebs, and hand out candy to costumed children. But something about Halloween still pulls at a deeper part of us, something ancient and uneasy. The holiday remains a space where the normal rules are suspended, where we invite mystery into our lives for just one night. Perhaps that is the enduring allure of Halloween. It allows us to confront what we cannot control. Death, the afterlife, and the unknown, all the things that haunt us year-round, are embraced, laughed at, and made manageable through rituals both old and new. Whether we light candles to honor our ancestors, carve pumpkins to ward off spirits, or simply indulge in a night of make-believe, we are participating in an ancient dance with the darkness, and in doing so, we recognize that the shadows, once feared, have always been with us. As midnight approaches on October 31st, with the last jack-o'-lantern flickering in the dark, we remember Halloween is not just a celebration of the strange. It's a reminder that the strange has always been part of our world. And perhaps on this one night of the year, it is best to let the spirits wander and the shadows linger, if only for a little while longer.